Close your eyes and settle in. Tonight's story is called, I Got a Tattoo When I Was Drunk, but something is very wrong with it. I'll go ahead and start by saying I'm not a tattoo guy. I'm honestly not. I hate needles, and I'm constantly paranoid of accidentally getting stuck by a dirty one. But that doesn't matter now because I have one. I didn't want to, but I made a drunken mistake, and I'm paying for it. Something is very wrong with it. This started when my friend AJ met me at the bar last week. We'd both gotten out of work, and I was already on my third beer for the night at McGarvey's when he slid into my booth with his sleeve rolled up. "Check it out," he said, "I finally did it. Good night." Good night. I beer goggled his arm and missed entirely what he was talking about. "You got a new shirt?" "Fucking lightweight," he sighed. "Dude, look at my arm." "Good night." Good night. I was halfway through brushing him off when my eyes locked on what he was finally pointing at. He'd got a tattoo on his upper forearm of a swirling sun that had almost a primitive edge to it. It looked like something you'd see on old Greek pottery, though I couldn't say if I'd ever seen it somewhere before. "Congrats," I told him. "How interesting." "Good night." Good night. Man, he said, "you always said I was too much of a wuss to get this done, and now, boom. What do you think?" The noise from the bar was starting to make my head pound, but I still tried to express some form of complex thought. "Neat. Good night." Good night. "Oh fuck you," he said. "You couldn't handle a needle, and I know you wouldn't." "I wouldn't want to," I told him. "They're dirty, carry disease, and cause infections, and I hate them, so no. Bitch. Good night." Good night. We both finished our drinks as AJ signaled our waitress for another round. I found my eyes drifting back to his tattoo and the swirling lines that made up the sun. I wondered why it hurt my eyes, but then I realized it wasn't just a plain outline. "Is your sun made up of fucking snakes?" I asked. "Good night." Good night. He grinned a little as he flexed his arm. "Yep. Cool, right. Good night." Good night. "It's creepy, dude," I said. "You work as a bank teller. Are you trying to give some old lady a heart attack?" "I found it online. Some blog posts from a conspiracy board." Good night. Good night. "Weird," I said. "What does it mean?" Good night. Good night. "I'm not entirely sure. The guy from the blog said he'd found it in a book he was translating from. Shit. I can't remember the language. Dutch? I don't know. The point is, he was saying it's from some Bronze Age pantheon. Can't remember quite for what. I'm glad your permanent skin doodle has such a deep meaning. Good night." Good night. "Hey man, it's just my first one, okay?" He took a swig of his beer and wagged a finger at his temple, trying to spin some gear of thought. He wiped his hand on his tie, then said, "Why don't you finally get one?" He said. "We used to talk about it a lot." Good night. Good night. "Yeah, when we were in college." Good night. Good night. "Get one, then, man." Good night. Good night. "Nah. Good night. Good night. Bitchas. Good night. Good night." We quietly sat there for a while, nursing our midlife crises with lager, when one sip finally imparted a thought to my friend's head that I didn't consider the mischievousness of until later. "Shots. Good night." Good night. I would like to clarify that I was 5 beers deep on a Friday night with no work the next day. I was not a paradigm of virtue, and I did not pretend to be. I remember taking 5 shots of rum before opening my bloodshot eyes to the light of my apartment window the following morning. Everything hurts. My head, my eyes, my back. AJ had apparently been sober enough to call me a cab and get me home, but not decent enough to get me into my bed. I was on the floor of my dining/living room, head on the carpet, and the rest of me on tile. My temples throbbed, and all I could really remember from the night before were images of the neon lights of the bar, some girls who'd given me a more than disgusted look, and a big, burly man with a beard hunched over me like some kind of goblin. What made even less sense was that my shirt was on backwards. I pulled myself off the floor, made my way into my bathroom, and praised God that I had the day off. I was getting ready to take a shower, and steam was starting to cake the mirror when I felt the ache in my back morph into something sharper. I was acutely aware of a stinging feeling on my top right shoulder blade, but couldn't twist enough to see exactly what it was. However, as anyone reading this has probably figured out, my answer became obvious. Using my shaving mirror to get the angle, my eyes locked on a swirling symbol of a sun, outlined with the thin forms of several writhing serpents. The center of the sun was pitch black, and the points of each sun flare were the end of a snake's tail. As you can imagine, I freaked the hell out, forgot about my shower, and was on the phone with AJ a minute later, cussing up a storm. AJ couldn't stop laughing and eventually fessed up. Apparently, after our little competition, we started arguing over who was the bigger wuss in our friendship, and that led to an argument about needles. Naturally, tattoos were brought up, and I fell for the whole "you're a loser if you don't" argument. I succumbed to peer pressure, failing every school counselor I'd ever had and betraying the one solid principle I had outside of not missing mass on Easter. I was mad at AJ for letting me go through with it, but even more upset with myself for being so willing after one drunken episode. I stared longer at the symbol on my shoulder and freaked out some more at what my parents would say when they found out. "Relax, dude," AJ told me, "it's not like it's somewhere anyone can see it. Just don't go to the beach, and no one will ever know." I heard his point and even agreed with it, but couldn't stop staring at the symbol. The skin around the ink was puffy and pink, burning in the stale air of my bathroom. At a loss for anything else to say, I asked again what exactly it meant and why he told the tattoo artist to draw this on me. He laughed again before giddily replying, "You know how we used to research conspiracies together in school?" I did, but I never called it research. We'd get wasted, watch scary videos on YouTube with our business major buddies, then piss ourselves making fun of how ridiculous they were. AJ, on the other hand, was way more into it than any of us, and now that obsession I had learned to accept as a quirky aspect of my best friend had resulted in something I could never erase. I was researching ancient languages one night and found an old blog from like 2011. This guy claimed he'd found a rare book he was translating from German. Something to do with an archaeologist's dig in Greece back in 1830. I saw that symbol in it and thought it was cool. "You don't even know what it means. Are you serious? Good night." "Good night. Lay off, Tyler," he said. "The point is, I told him to give you the same one I had, so congrats. You're officially inked up. Asshole. Good night." "Good night." He asked me if I wanted to meet up later for a bite after work, but I told him I was probably just gonna catch up on sleep. I hung up, showered, and poked at my ink-stained skin. I had a tattoo, and I couldn't even remember it. In some ways, I felt robbed of an experience I was entitled to. It's true, I never planned on getting a tattoo. I come from a traditional family that looks down on that kind of stuff, so I've never really had the urge to get one, but I also figured that if I ever went through with it, I'd have some kind of say in what it'd be. Instead, I made a drunk decision and ended up with some potentially satanic shit. Not that it'd matter to my mom if she found out. Around lunchtime, I started feeling the sting. It had hurt before, but now it was almost burning, especially in the sunlight. It wasn't just the sting of a needle, but an actual burning sensation. It was like I had sunburn. Every drag my t-shirt made against my skin hurt, and it wasn't going away with time. I put some aloe on it to cool it off, but it didn't do much. I decided to continue with my day and ignore it, but the burn got worse. I got some intense burn cream from the drugstore near my place and decided that if it didn't work, I'd go to the doctor. It'd be just my luck if my drunk tattoo had some infection, but thankfully, the cream worked pretty well. My whole shoulder went numb, but hey, can't feel pain if you can barely feel anything. I texted AJ that night and asked him if his tattoo still hurt. Good night. Good night. A bit, lol. He said. Good night. Good night. Does it burn? Good night. Good night. He left me to read after that. I sent him another text, but he never responded. The next day, I tried calling him, but couldn't reach him. I had work on Monday and decided it would be easiest to put him out of my mind and check in with him later. The bank where he worked often had his lunch lined up with mine, so we'd see each other in the food court on the 8th regularly. So, I went about my Sunday, long and depressing as it was, and regularly soothed my new tattoo with burn cream. It was still puffy, but the cream was really helping, so I figured it would improve with time. However, that evening when I went to bed, something strange happened. I want to preface this part by saying I'm prone to sleep paralysis, and as anyone who's dealt with that before can tell you, you can see some weird shit while you're lying there. When I was 15, I swear I saw some huge thin dog at the corner of my room that stared at me for the entire time I was under. Another time when I was even younger, I saw a man with pale eyes leaning over my body, taking measurements for some unknown reason. I still see that guy sometimes when I have my episodes, but I say all of that to say this: I've seen horrific stuff before and woke up from it hundreds of times. That time, though, was different. I was in bed for a while when the paralysis finally kicked in. My room was dark, save for the faint glow of the city lights leaking from the window like ghostly fingers. I was sure I had fallen asleep at one point, but couldn't tell when. I was in some fugue state. My thoughts hardly made sense. My sight was fuzzy. My eyes darted around in the room in that same familiar panic I knew and hated, then settled on a figure in the corner of the room. Near the window, standing on a small end table, was the hunched form of an old woman. She was completely nude, save for a dirty gray cloth around her waist and a black gauzy shawl that draped down her threadbare scalp. The shawl wrapped around her neck and almost glittered in the window's glow. My heart raced as she reached a long, gnarled finger out at me and said something in a language I didn't understand, but that buzzed in my head like the drone of a blown-out speaker. Apollos. I made out. Off eyes. Good night. Good night. When she said that, I swear to God, I felt something move in my back. I started to convulse wildly as the crone started creeping toward me. The shawl around her neck slinked and slid around her head and neck, becoming fuller and darker the closer it got. By the time she was at my bed, I realized why it moved the way it did. It was not a shawl, but a snake as thick as a man's leg. A dark, angled head appeared before me and opened wide to flash a set of needle-like white teeth. It recoiled to strike, then closed in on me. I shot up immediately and struggled to breathe. The woman was gone, as was her monstrous snake, but my heart was still racing. I freaked out, drank a glass of water, then stood in front of the mirror of my bathroom for a solid hour checking myself for any kind of injury. I was paranoid. I knew there shouldn't be any mark on me, there couldn't be. It was impossible to get injured from a dream, but I couldn't help myself. I felt as if I was going crazy. I kept hearing those words over and over again. Apollos. Good night. Good night. Off eyes. Good night. Good night. What the fuck was that? I asked for my reflection. It gave no response, but did move in a way I didn't expect. For a second, briefer than a wink, I thought I saw something pulse under the skin of my shoulder. I called in sick the next morning after trying and failing to sleep with my lights on. AJ still wouldn't pick up, so I went to the bank to confront him in person. By that point, I was convinced the tattoo was infected, or the ink was contaminated. Either way, something was causing me to hallucinate. I scanned the tellers, saw he wasn't in, then asked the manager if they'd seen him. No, she'd told me, he called in sick for the next few days. Didn't give much of a reason why, but he had the hours, so I didn't press. You think he's okay? I assured her he was, but clearly didn't say so convincingly. Her gaze grew more concerned as she looked at me. Are you good? You're not looking too well yourself. I peeled off to the bathroom without saying another word. My back was on fire. Good night. Good night. The bank restroom was empty, and I took full advantage. I ripped off my hoodie, pulled up my t-shirt, and instantly felt the pain of cool, sterile air on my hot skin. I was sweating all over, and my face was almost green. My back was sensitive to the touch, and I soon saw why. Boils, hot and pus-filled, poxed my upper back. My skin was pink and yellow from the heat, and my skin peeled like layers of a rotten onion. The pain was near unbearable, and heat radiated from the black serpentine sun on the corner of my back. I grabbed my bag and tried to apply more cream to the tattoo, but my hand shot away with pain. The cream sizzled like butter in a hot pan, and the fingers that tried to apply it now had third-degree burns. It was like my back was the top of an oven. Confused and panicked, I went to throw my shirt and hoodie back on, but my hand went through a set of holes that didn't exist before. Both of the back right shoulders had cinched holes the size of hockey pucks. I threw them on anyway and made my way out of the bank. I decided I needed to find AJ. We needed to figure out what the hell this was, and fast. I took the bus to his apartment, attracting stares. The rest of my skin was turning gray and greenish. I started coughing uncontrollably, creating a bubble around myself as fellow commuters gave me space. It was like having a fever and being stuck in a desert. I was delirious. As I left the bus, I could have sworn I saw that old woman again, sitting and stroking the snake that choked her. When I made it to AJ's apartment, I already knew something bad had happened. His door was unlocked, and there was a foul, sweet smell in the air. AJ. I called out to him as I burst into his living room. AJ, we need to dash. Good night. Good night. I was left speechless by the sight before me. Hunched in a dining room chair, shirtless, soaking wet, and steam rising from a plastic tub of water. AJ sat trembling with his arm submerged in the water, and looked up at me with fear. Ice, please. For the love of God, give me ice. I rushed in and went to pull his arm out, but he screamed. Tyler, for the love of God. Ice. Please. I started toward the fridge, but he redirected me. The BB bathroom. I did as he asked and ran into the other room. Everything was a mess. There were papers everywhere, along with food wrappers, soda cans, and towels that led in a path toward the bathtub. Piles of plastic ice bags were littered around the toilet, and his tub was full of ice. Atop the cubes was an empty plastic trash bin. I used it to quickly scoop up ice and ran back to my friend. The water around his arm was boiling out of the sides of the bin, but still, he kept it submerged. I poured in the ice as he screamed and yelled at him. What the hell is this thing doing to us? Good night. Good night. Through gritted teeth and hissing breath, he relented. I don't know. I don't know. It was just something off a website. It wasn't supposed to. This wasn't. It was then that I realized he had no skin up to his shoulder. I could see tendons and bone through the bubbling flesh of his elbow. Have you seen her too? My blood ran cold as I stared into his graying eyes. What? Good night. Good night. She tells me things in my sleep. Things I don't understand. Apollos, he muttered. A yellow glow steamed under the ice water, and AJ wailed. He pulled out his arm and started crying. His hand was crusted black like burnt toast, and flame rose from the serpent sun on his wrist. Its black center seemed almost hollow as AJ's voice faded and he fell to the floor, wrist up. The flames rose softly around his seared wrist, rising like tinder as smoke filled the room. She told me this would happen, he said with a croak. She'll tell you too. Good night. Good night. His body lurched, and beneath his skin, from his legs to his chest and belly, tendrils convulsed and slithered, making their way to his burning arm. From the darkness of that sun came the head of a great snake, the same snake from my vision. It bore its teeth and hissed as the flames grew higher, and I ran as fast as I could from the apartment. I heard sirens not long after I left. I knew what they were for. I'm at my apartment now, at a loss, writing this. I can feel the serpents under my skin. I think it's more than one, but I'm not sure why. My back is burning. I can't get enough ice from my fridge. I don't want to hurt anyone in my apartment complex. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but I don't know what to do. Please. Does anyone know what any of this is? Can anyone help me? Does anyone know about the book this symbol is from? Please message quickly. Please. Good night. Good night. It's getting hotter. Good night. Good night. And that is where our story rests for tonight. Let your thoughts drift away, slow and easy. Good night. Sleep well.